Hey, welcome to the Power Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm Jake Rosenberg, and I'm here with my co-host Jacob Busani, and this is the show for entrepreneurs and business owners to get a behind-the-scenes look at how the uber successful around us think and operate. Continuing in the spirit of last week's episode, Jacob and I decided to interview each other. If you've been following along with the Power Entrepreneurs Podcast the last 2 years that we've been doing this, you've heard us asking questions from others, getting to know others and the way they think and operate. And so we decided to flip the script and give you a bit of an inside view on how we think and we operate, not just in the Power Entrepreneur, but in our own lives and our own businesses. So without further ado, it's crazy, especially knowing that most people don't drink water throughout the day, and they wonder why they're always so tired. They wonder why they're always lazy and not wanting to do whatever they need to do. It's because you're not equipping yourself properly, right?
Exactly. It's so true.
So speaking of equipping, I mean, one of the things that I loved about your book, The Entrepreneurial Way, is that it's not just a book, right? Like a lot of books out there are there to teach you lessons or to teach you methodologies. Your book was more about equipping someone with a path as an entrepreneur, what to do, because so many entrepreneurs are just lost in the beginning, right? Like, what was the inspiration behind The Entrepreneurial Way?
So I've seen so many books on really teaching people how to make money. I didn't want to be like that. I wanted for myself to write myself kind of an accountability partner, so to speak. I wanted to kind of check myself from time to time. So that was my real motivation of writing a book. I did not have any inspiration to really publish it until I started writing the book. Once I started writing it, I think I was like 40 or 50 pages in. I'd say like almost 15,000 words in. And I just deleted everything. It was just not what I wanted to do. And I just restarted it all. And it took me, I think, like a month and a half after to write it all up before I sent it to the first round of editing. And the inspiration from when I started and then the inspiration from when you finish and you have the product in hand is so different, because once I felt it and I felt it in my hands and I saw all the blood, sweat, and tears that really went into this book, all the energy that I put into this, and knowing how many lives it can change for the better was really what pushed me to propel myself forward into this direction of really furthering my personal development, my self-growth, and really like powering and equipping people.
I think it's so powerful because, we've spoken about this before, but entrepreneurship is about empowering other people in some way or another. Like, you're there to help people, and that's why they pay you even. That's what business is at its core. It's interesting I kind of want to dig into this for a second. There's a lot of people that want to write books, but they, for whatever reason, they have a million different excuses why they're not writing a book. There's people that will seriously tell you, I'm really passionate about this. I want to write a book on this and that. Why haven't you done it? Oh, X, Y, Z. What happened when you decided that you're putting out a book? Number one, how did you motivate yourself and get yourself to not just start it, but to finish the book? And also, beyond that, can you talk about that process of actually putting a book out? It starts with you writing the book, but then there's editors and whatever, putting together the layout of the book and the cover and all these different steps that you have to go through to actually put a final book on the shelf, or these days it's a virtual shelf. But can you talk about that process?
Sure. So regarding the first question, I think the way I really got myself to write the book, and advice for other people who want to write this book and they have this quote unquote writer's block, and where they never even wrote anything. It's really, you want to write a book, first you got to figure out what you want to talk about. Next, is that really what you're passionate about? And that's really what you want to dedicate your time and effort into. Knowing that whatever you publish, make sure that it's the best at that given moment. Yes, I know that there are some coaches and consultants that are going to tell you, just put a book out just for the sake of putting a book out. It doesn't matter what's inside, as long as you have a book, it's going to give you credibility. I don't believe like that. I believe if you're already putting your effort into something, do it right.
Yeah,
do
always.
Do it right. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Do it right. You're pouring a cup of water, do it right. You're writing a book, you're doing it right. And I think the process is just writing. Just write every day. If you can't every day, write almost every day. Whether it's an hour, whether it's 20 minutes, whether it's even 2 sentences. Just as long as you're doing it and you're moving forward to it, that's really what matters. And regarding putting the book actually out there, so I only know on self-publishing how to do it. The way I did it was I had someone design the cover while I sent my book out to editing and proofreading. While it was being edited and proofread, I had someone do the layout. Once the layout was done, I had someone do it, upload it to Amazon, and do all of that stuff. I know that I had to buy the barcode, the ISBN number. So that was on Bowkers. That's BOWKERS.com. You can get all that stuff from there. That's where they buy it. If you plan on writing more than one book, just buy the bundle of 10 ISBN numbers. It'll be cheaper for you in the long run. I think that's really my process for self-publishing. It's you write, you edit, proofread, layout, cover, ISBN number, Library of Congress. Publish. Yeah, like upload it to Amazon. They're going to do some back and forth with you. And then you're ready to rock and roll. And then it's just ordering a bunch, setting up all your, if you plan on doing a book tour, setting up all the material that you're going to do with it, already speaking about whatever you're going to be doing a couple months in. That's why I made the cover earlier, so that way I can already promote it before the book comes out. Mm-hmm. That was my process for that book. Now I'm actually in the middle of 2 other books.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I'm doing right now the Super Planner. The Super Planner is the most epic planner that I have ever seen. Not just because I wrote it, it's because I wrote it.
Is it kind of like the Entrepreneurial Way, but on steroids? Like, what is the Super
Planner?
No,
this is
about?
More like time management on steroids. This is you want to organize yourself, and you want to do it in a fun and interactive way every day, every month, every year, every week, keeping yourself accountable every step of the way. My planner is what it is.
Nice. Coming soon to thepowerentrepreneur.com.
Oh, yeah. And then I have the self-coaching journal. I'm still thinking of a tagline, and if that's what I want to call that. And that's really a book on how to coach yourself to success. So many people they come up with the question, why do I need a coach? Why do I need a mentor? Why do I need someone in my life to tell me if what I'm doing is right?
Right. I could do it myself.
Yeah, I could do it myself. No problem. You want to do it yourself? I'll show you how to do it. It's not easy, but if you can do it yourself, you're a rock star. And that's exactly what I'm covering. I'll be having over 50 chapters in the book. Book is not going to be big, but it's a workbook.
Comprehensive.
Yeah. Questions, thought-provoking examples, stories. And it's really exactly what you would get from a coach and what you would get from a mentor. I'm putting it all down on paper. I'm walking you through the process of how to coach yourself. I'm walking you through the process of how to analyze, how to be curious about yourself in areas where you never thought that was even a possibility, or that never even entered into your mind. So yeah, coaching yourself is very possible. I coached myself for a couple months. Is it hard? Extremely hard. Why? Because you don't have that accountability. But with this book, you will have that accountability. Of course, there's nothing like having a physical person who to bounce ideas off of. But yeah, some people, they're not in the financial position to hire somebody. And some people, some people, they have these ideas and they're very paranoid and they don't want other people to either get their ideas or to judge them. And that's totally fine. You take it one step at a time. And so that was another reason why I'm in the middle of creating right now the self-coaching journal. Both of these books, I am bound to be released before January 2021. So
nice.
Stay tuned for that.
So for all of you that like making New Year's resolutions and are sick and tired of failing at your New Year's resolutions, you make sure to get these two. They'll probably make a huge difference. It's interesting to see how, a lot of times people think that something is so complex, but once you break it down into steps, it becomes so simple, right? In business and in life, we have situations all the time that we don't know how to deal with them because we've never dealt with before. And the fact is that almost 99% of the time, there is someone out there that's already been through the situation that can help you get through it a lot more easily. That's kind of the idea of coaching. Do you see that people tend to kind of trip up if they're trying to do self-coaching? Because I know, and you probably know, that it is very difficult at the end of the day to hold yourself accountable and to make sure that you're always on top of, like, you're on the ball at all times. And when you have a coach, it's very different. Like, you have someone constantly pushing you to be your best and do your best.
100%. It is so challenging to hold yourself accountable. And that's really why the business of coaching and consulting and mentors, not the business of mentors, but the idea of mentors, really picked up in the last couple of years, just because we're so busy these days with everything. Social media, smartphones, just life. Everything is so much more fast-paced, and like what you're saying, it's always thrown at us in every different direction.
Right.
Where we need that list, these other two pair of ears to really listen, process, and bounce back at us. So yeah, the coaching book is of course, it's a very effective tool, but to really be the best is really just having that person,
right,
to validate, to bounce off of, and to really that human connection. Two ideas is better than one.
Two heads, definitely.
Of course.
And also, it's funny, I had a mentor of mine once told me, when you're inside the bottle, you can't read the label. You need someone outside to hold up a mirror so you can see. So, and that's pretty much what coaching is about. It's like when you're in the bottle of your life and you're trying to get out of that bottle and you're trying to see what's all out there, it's a lot of times it's pretty difficult for us to see it from our current perspective. And so it's always helpful to have an outside perspective giving you a second pair of fresh eyes and ears. But I'm curious, is there any like simple tips or tricks that you have as a coach that people can learn from in terms of, holding yourself accountable and actually sticking to what's important in your life?
Before we continue, I'd like to take a quick minute to talk about this episode's sponsor. Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When we were thinking about getting the Power Entrepreneurs podcast off the ground, we had a lot of questions, like how to record our episodes and how to get our show into all the different apps people enjoy listening on. The answer was very simple: Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast, and it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. So to get your podcast started, just visit anchor.fm/start. As always, if you're enjoying this episode of our podcast, be sure to leave a review on iTunes. Now back to the show.
But I'm curious, is there any like simple tips or tricks that you have as a coach that people can learn from in terms of, holding yourself accountable and actually sticking to what's important in your life?
Yes, exactly. So when I was quarantined, this is one of the things that I was struggling with, is really keeping myself accountable. And it's especially since I run a couple of different businesses and I have always so many different projects coming up. It's so relevant, and I'm sure so many other of you totally feel the same exact way, where it could be you're actually running different businesses, or you just have a bunch of different projects and just things to do. And I broke it down into 3 things. And I think these 3 things is really what sums it all up. And if you have access and if you can do these 3 things, you're going to be so successful. Beyond not just that, your self-belief, your confidence, your self-esteem is going to really propel through to places that you've never seen. And it first starts with focus, where you have to have your vision, your North Star. You have to know your goals. You have to be completely 100% focused on whatever you're doing at that moment. Whether it's, are you eating? Eat. Don't eat and text and this and that. If you're eating, you're eating. If you're watching a movie, you're watching a movie. If you're spending time with your loved one or with your friend, give them your full time. If you're working, you're working. Don't work and text and do this and do that. Yeah, yes, we can multitask, but men was not really, like, human beings were not really created to multitask. I was just listening to Scientology by L. Ron Hubbard the other day, and then I read it right after because I loved it so much. And he was talking about how men were not created, people were not created to multitask. Yeah, there's some things where about us, we could multitask, like walking, breathing, and talking, and doing things with our hands. But otherwise, there's so much more consumption on energy consumption when you're attempting to multitask, and that's why I think he gave an example of when you're watching, when you want someone to remember something, right? There's a few different ways you can do it. You can write it down and have them read it. You can talk to them, or you can show them a picture. When you show them a picture, they don't need to start multitasking, where taking whatever was written, processing that into their brain, creating an image, taking that image and putting it. That's why the most powerful PowerPoints are under 40 words, and they're mostly comprised of images. Oh yeah, it wasn't Scientology that from this example. This example was from Talk Like TED, the book, and it's really. It comes down to focus, where what you're doing right now, you complete focus. The next one is discipline. Everyone needs discipline in so many different areas of their life, whether it's health, wealth, time management, or just priority setting, and so many more areas of their life. And if you can discipline yourself, however disciplining yourself means to you, and whatever you feel is going to be effective, that's the second key ingredient. The third key ingredient is consistency, where be consistent, do what you do, and have that schedule, not the full day schedule, because then you're a robot. I'm sorry, not the full day routine, because then you're already like a robot. More of like, be consistent. So yeah, you have your morning routine, you get up, your first 2 hours, you do something. Be consistent with that. Don't stop that for nothing. Of course, you're going to have emergencies in life, and things are going to come up where you can't. But overall, as long as you have that, you're going to be consistent. So when you have your focus and you're disciplined about your focus, your goals, your visions, and you're consistent about them, in my opinion, that's the real key to success. And that's the key to really staying on track with all the distractions and all the things that are popping up right now, especially with the news. you look at the news for 1 second, you're in panic. We're like, oh, so there's going to be another wave of coronavirus, so they're going to lock us up in the house now for another time. And this time they're speaking, it's going to be to 100,000 cases a day. Like you start getting that panic where it's really like, what stopped you from doing it until
away
now?
From your focus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just tune out of the news as much as you can, and use these 3 key ingredients.
If there's one golden nugget, it's focus, discipline, and consistency, followed by stay away from the news.
Oh yeah.
But it's crazy. You know what? First off, this thought just struck me about how podcasting is essentially the greatest exercise for focus, discipline, and consistency. You can't interview someone if you're not focusing on them 100%. You can't have a successful podcast if you're not disciplined and consistent. So this is a great exercise. It's interesting to think about that.
I think we mastered it, right? 2.5 years, 2 years plus and going.
Yeah. And it also reminds me a little bit of Ed Milet, I believe, says it. Entrepreneurship is the greatest personal development regimen with a potential compensation package attached, depending on how good you are at it at the end of the day. So I'm curious, within business, right? So we know that focus, discipline, consistency is going to help you pretty much achieve anything, which, by the way, the G Code, Ryan Stewman, is all about that, right? Like, that focus is our superpower. How do you go about figuring out what your focus is? And I know that this is a big part, you're a John Maxwell certified coach and you're giving DISC assessments. And a big part of that is to figure out, who am I and like, what exactly am I focusing on, right? What can somebody take away from this that they can maybe go and figure out with a little more clarity? Like, what am I doing?
So all these assessments, they're great. They're bonuses. In my opinion, they're bonuses. Yeah, I administer them and I coach people with them, but that's definitely not what you should live your life by. The DISC or by the Myers-Briggs or by the emotional intelligence, where they're all great. They're all amazing tools, but really is the way I did it was that's why I wrote my book, because that literally I outlined everything of what I need to be focused. And the way I do it, so if you don't have my book, another way you can do it is take a pen, take a paper, and use your brain, and just write on the top why, and underline that why, and put a bunch of exclamation points just going to the end of the page, and write 3 whys. Why am I here on this world? Why am I where I am right now as opposed to where my potential is? And the second one is, why am I not being a better version of myself? And I feel like once you have those 3 questions, those 3 whys in front of you, it's just going to bring so much it's going to trigger so much thoughts, emotions. Some of you might feel upset and invalidated and just not happy, where now you're going where you're not where you are right now, and that's totally fine. But the most important thing is, whatever comes into your brain during that brainstorm session with your pen, paper, and your brain, just write it all down, and through that you're going to come up with something that's going to really help you to really focus, as opposed to, okay, let me keep everything inside my brain bank, and let me go click on this file every time I need to open it, and let's see if I remember where all the files are. Because that's what most of us do, right? You have to do this, and that. Okay, I didn't write it down. I'm gonna remember it, right? You're going to remember it, and then we always have that. Keep on forgetting. Like, I have to do something today. Whether it's, you forgot to do the groceries, or you forgot your cleaners, or you forgot to give this person a phone call, you forgot to follow up, you forgot to, it's your wife's birthday tomorrow, or somebody important to you, something you forgot to get them. When you're focused, you have it all down. Whether it's on paper, whether it's on your phone, wherever it is, you have a board in the office, you have an assistant that does it. But as long as there is some kind of action that's written down, you can be focused. Otherwise, I feel like you're living a dream.
I love that. Also, especially those three why. The three whys are, it's intense self-accountability, because at the end of the day, you need to be really honest with yourself. If you're going to change anything, you need to be able to look at yourself and answer yourself honestly. And these questions don't really give you any way to escape.
There's no wiggle room.
Right, yeah. And so I'm curious, kind of, once you figure it out, here's where I am, here's where I want to be, here's why I'm where I am, here's why I'm not where I want to be, and you have all of this. It's all written out on a piece of paper. It's a big mishka babel. What do you do with that?
Perfect. Now comes the map part. Now you map it all out. Map is the massive action plan. You put down the idea board, and this is part of the planner, where it's to do, doing, done, and then there's notes. And you just write all of everything that just comes to your mind. Some people, they do checklists, and checklists are great as long as they're smaller checklists. The checklists, don't have your checklists more than like 5 to 7 items per checklist, because then it just gets too big and you're scrolling through it, or you're flipping through it. Have them short that way, and try to categorize. Like, one of the ways that I did it was, the book is called Getting Things Done by David Allen, which I interviewed. Phenomenal book. After I read that book, time management was like number one for me. So it's when you do that and you put everything down on paper, you can create yourself the massive action plan where it's exactly what you said. How do I get from point A to point B and potentially C, D, E, F, G?
I like it. And also, David Allen's Getting Things Done method it's so stupid simple. Once you read it, you're like, well, why didn't I think of that? And it works. I also recently started utilizing it, and it's really cool. So, kind of wrapping up over here, there's the question that we always ask, that you could kind of cheat on this because you've heard so many great answers, but what is the difference between an entrepreneur and a power entrepreneur?
Wow, that's such an amazing question. I wonder who came up with that.
I don't know, it must have been one of us.
Yeah, one of us, definitely. The entrepreneur does what he needs to do. And he will go beyond what he needs to do. And chances are he will go so far and beyond. And the real difference, in my opinion, between the entrepreneur and the power entrepreneur is the power entrepreneur always seems to have more time. There's a saying, you want something done, give it to the busiest person, right? Because he's gonna get it done somehow, right? And I feel that that's really what comes down to the power entrepreneur, where we're all given 24 hours in a day. The entrepreneur will do so much, and that's amazing. The entrepreneur really will. He'll bust his butt and go places. But the power entrepreneur is time managed. He's focused, he's disciplined, and he's consistent. And I think that's really what makes a power entrepreneur so powerful. And not just powerful, it's magnetic. Where you're just attracted to these type of people. Yeah, there's introverts, there's extroverts, there's all the different names. Now there's ambiverts and all the different verts. it's really those things: time management, focus, discipline, and consistency.
Nice. I like it. So, Jacob, my brother, my partner, how can people find your book, your upcoming book and planner? Tell us where to find you online and get in touch.
Cool. So all my social media handles is Jacob Busani. That's Jacob Busani. My website is jacobusani.com. If you want to connect with me, you want to have a conversation, there's a link on my website to schedule my Calendly, or you can do it off of my LinkedIn. Shoot me a LinkedIn request and just say that, you heard the podcast or wherever it is. And I'm looking forward.
So are we. So much more to come. Thank you so much for joining me, not as an interviewer, but as the interviewee today on The Power Entrepreneur.
Thank you.
Hey, you powerhouse. You made it to the end of the episode. Not everyone can do that. We really appreciate you listening to our show every week. If you enjoyed this episode, let us know. You can find us on social media by looking for The Power Entrepreneur. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, even Twitter. Look for The Power Entrepreneur or go to our website, thepowerentrepreneur.com. If you really, really love the podcast, I'd highly appreciate it if you went on iTunes right now and left us a review. It helps us way more than you know. Go out there and make it a powerful life.